Yes, indeed. Welcome into another episode of Total Hockey Now here on the Total Hockey Now YouTube channel. That over there is at Ant Rivera 86, and that down there is at Fuzzy Chris 91. And there must have been a StreamYard update because my layout is not working the way I want it to, but nonetheless, here we are.
Listen, it's no preseason for all of us.
Getting the kinks out early.
No, you know what they did? They added another preset one, and it bumped mine to I had to click the carrot. That's what happened. Nonetheless, here we are.
We're just getting the kinks out a little early here, getting ready and excited for Centers Talk this week on Total Hockey Now.
I do want to acknowledge that we're a proper line again at Ant Rivera 86, despite some infant vomit is here. And yes, you know, that's part of being a new dad. So as long as it's not on the microphone or any of the electronics, we're all good.
Yeah, it was just happened like a couple minutes ago, and I'm like, there's not enough time. I'm just gonna get on with this and you know, get this show on the road.
Yeah, that's what you do. You're a gamer. That's how it's got to go. Now, before we get to our center tiers, and I will say this multiple times because we got some comments. Hey guys, good stuff. And then we got comments like, how could Mikhail Sergachev be a C tier defenseman? It's like, well, first of all, it's among the top 25 according to Yahoo 80. And it's fantasy hockey, not on the ice, not what they bring to the table in the actual game. We're talking from a fantasy perspective.
It feels like after every choice, you're going to have to say something. Like every time we pick someone, we're going to have to reiterate this is for fantasy, you know, yell at Yahoo, not us.
And it's no, I mean, and again, we're only doing it among the top 25 at the position. If we did a true ranking of the position, you know, we'll say top 100 available, which we don't got time for that. And that would take like 2+ hours. Nobody wants to watch that long. But nonetheless, again, and we will reiterate, it is a tier ranking of fantasy top 25 at the position. So guess what happens? Your 21 through 25 are still serviceable defensemen, but for the purpose of this activity, they are D. So let's just get that equation right before we start in a minute here. But the NHL is going to start earlier next season in the 2026-27 campaign. They're going to start the regular season in late September, which is usually when the preseason starts. And then the Stanley Cup is going to be done by mid-June. So, yeah, I mean, this is what people have been wanting. Like this, you know, this last couple of years, it's like the Stanley Cup ended. And then like you're right into awards, right into the draft, right into free agency, which I don't necessarily mind. But if you're somebody that covers the game for a living, I could see where you might want a little bit of a break after going back and forth. Let's say it's between Edmonton and Miami. You know what I mean? Like sometimes the travel can be a killer on the Stanley Cup. So I think I can't imagine anybody doesn't like this move. Like, I don't know. What's to not like about it?
It's good that it's starting earlier, but a mid-June Stanley Cup is still tough, man. I feel like Stanley Cup should be awarded by like first week of June. Just like, because think about it, you finish, then you have the draft, right?
Like if you finish in mid-June, now that's like a week later.
Right, because free agency is July 1st. And then this probably means that like training camps open end of August? Like at least, because you got to, or maybe beginning of September? And then you got to play 4 preseason games? Like there's a lot to crowd in there, but I don't know. Maybe one day we'll get closer to a beginning of June finish.
I mean, here's the one thing, and I don't know if the NHL is going to adapt this in their schedule change, but the NBA locks in the NBA finals dates at the beginning of the playoffs. So if both conference finals are sweeps, there's a long gap between sometimes, you know, the end of that last game 4 and when the NHL, one thing, they don't do that. So it may be done by early June. If you get a bunch of short series where the schedule gets expedited, you could have a Stanley Cup being awarded maybe a week after Memorial Day in the United States, you know, first week of June. So unless they decide to go to a hard, you know, hey, we're starting it this day regardless, I don't think they would do. I don't even think the players would want that. I think the last thing NHL Stanley Cup players want is to be off a week and a half because of how, well, that was the scheduled date. You know, as much as they want rest, there's a healthy amount of rest and then there's too much rest.
I gotta say, I do kind of like it. The NFL has already started their season at that point. Baseball is towards the end of the season, so all the teams that are out of it and you're into hockey, you're getting into hockey mode. You start a few weeks before the NBA, so you get a little bit to yourself, and then you're ending, you know, the NFL's gone, NBA's in the middle of their postseason, And then MLB, like you're in the middle of the year where it's just like you want a little action. You're watching hockey.
No, I think that for all, there's no, to me, there's really no reason to like it. This is what I feel like most hockey fans have been asking for, is to move the calendar up on the schedule for a little bit. And yeah, well, I'm certainly a fan. Like you said, you pointed out, they're not trying to like, listen, let's be real. It's Thursday NFL kickoff today. Eagles, Cowboys. That's the headline. That's the story. I get it, but you're not directly competing with that. NFL's had a chance to settle in. Yeah, your preseason's kind of competing with it, but let's be real. Preseason hockey. I used to remember as a Ranger season ticket holder when they'd make you pay for those games. Like, what the hell am I going to do? I'm going to go to one of them. But I certainly can't sell these, and you can't even give away preseason tickets half the time. So yeah, well, that'll be that. Now, again, we're going to have the mock draft 25.8 coming up in about 30 minutes. But first, I think it's time we do a little center tier rankings here. And yes, we did the defensemen last week, centers today. Next week, we're going to do, I believe, left wing or right wing. I have the schedule somewhere, and then we'll finish up with goalies. But yeah, today is the center's turn here. And first up is going to be Connor McDavid. And similar to what we discussed with Cale Makar last week, obviously he's going to be in the top tier here. But, is he in a tier by himself, or is Draisaitl in there with him? Is McKinnon in there with him? Where do we see that? How do we handicap this out of the bat? Off the game?
I think he's in a tier of his own. I get it that Draisaitl and McKinnon are, right there. But, when you're talking about the number one overall, draft pick, generational player, it's McDavid. I think he's on a tier by himself, to be honest. Just a step above.
I would have an argument for putting McKinnon there. From a fantasy perspective, McKinnon can rack up goals. He's at 100-point pace every year. He drives on the power play. He is also a massive shot volume player, which is, I don't think that's what McDavid is. McDavid is a full, complete player, and McKinnon is as well. You know what I mean? We're picking between the creme de la creme here. So it's nitpicking for it. But in terms of fantasy and in terms of what these two players can bring, if your consolation prize is Nathan McKinnon, I don't think that gap is as wide as it used to be, right? I don't think Connor McDavid is a 150-point player in the NHL, which is saying something, because he can, he can flirt with that any time of the year. But I mean, he's right there for McKinnon, and it's hard to also discredit Draisaitl just because, I mean, he led the league in goals, right? So, but I see Draisaitl more as a winger. I get he plays center, but that's because I don't think the Oilers have enough center depth. So yes, they play them separately, but when push comes to shove and they need offense, those two are on the ice at every given moment together.
Now, this would be a healthy time to remind people we are tier ranking from a fantasy perspective and not actual hockey ability. Because yes, if we're just talking about hockey ability, then yes, Connor McDavid belongs in a tier by himself. And that's not a knock on Draisaitl or McKinnon. We are just talking from a fantasy perspective. So, before you start typing in that, comment, if you're watching later, again, now what I will say, to make the argument that others belong in that tier, is Connor McDavid is not a goal scorer. He is going to lead the league in points. He's going to get the Art Ross Trophy more likely. 26 goals last year, 32 before that, 64, okay, fine, and then 44 before that. But even then, low 30s, had low 40s. So, to me, that's an area where you can put Draisaitl and McKinnon in that group because their goals, the scoring is a little more balanced among the points. Now, you mentioned you would put McKinnon in that tier. I didn't hear you say Draisaitl, Chris. So why no Draisaitl?
I can live with Draisaitl being there as well. I just there are lots of benefits to having Leon Draisaitl. He is a great second option. He is tied to McDavid's hip basically, and he does have the dual position eligibility, right? McDavid will not give you that. He is a pure center, whereas Draisaitl will give you center, and usually you'll get winger eligibility with him. So I would definitely put him there, but I would rank it McDavid, McKinnon, and then Draisaitl would finish off the S tier. Because again, the shot volume from Draisaitl is not there. There, right? To be in the S tier, there are so many things you got to do at just a super high level. And I'm not going to argue against McDavid because that would be nuts.
Correct.
But if I'm looking at Nathan MacKinnon, there are so many things that like he can score, he can rack up assists, he does it on the power play, the shot volume is high, the ice time is elevated. There's so many things that he does well that he deserves to be there from a fantasy perspective.
So the argument I'm going to make for it is if in pretty much every mock draft I've done, and believe me, I've been up at night doing them till I fall asleep with the phone in my hand. And I wake up and like, oh, that's who I ended up taking because I started a 14-teamer at midnight Pacific. The top 3 in every draft is always McDavid, Draisaitl, McKinnon. There may be, McKinnon may go second. Maybe somebody takes Draisaitl first or whatever. But those are your top 3. So I think I'm okay with S tier being all those 3. And that is your S tier. And by the way, some of these guys are going to show up. They're also wings with Yahoo eligibility. So you're going to see Leon Draisaitl again. Brady Tkachuk, we're going to see again. So keep in mind that these are guys we're going to see again at various positions. So we've established the S tier. We're not putting Matthews in that tier, but obviously he leads off the A tier, correct?
That's perfectly fine. He has the capability to be the highest goal scorer in the NHL. I don't know how healthy he's been the last couple of years. That wrist injury may have lingered a little longer than he would have liked. He does a lot of other things well, right? He does kill penalties. The shot volume is elevated as well. So there's a lot of good things. I guess what I'm worried about with Matthews is how the loss of Marner is going to affect him, because Marner was an elite setup man, and say what you want about him, and people certainly have. I mean, listen, every goal scorer needs somebody to set him up, and we're going to see how the Leafs are going to do that for him. But I guess I'm a little bit worried as to how many points he's going to rack up, but he's still going to be an elite option. He's still probably a top 10 pick in fantasy. He's going to play the important minutes, and it's kind of like figure it out afterwards, right? That's kind of what it is.
Matthews for sure still a first-round pick in fantasy, probably in that 8 to 10 range. You don't really see him fall past. You really don't see him fall into double digits. Maybe I don't really recall seeing him go later than like 11 or anything like that. So yes, still very much a first. And yeah, again, because he's losing a guy like Marner, Michelli or Nyes has to prove that they can feed him and continue to have him be the guy that drives that line. 33 goals last year, of course, 69 the year before that, 40, 60, 41. So yeah, he's still top 10 pick, still very much A tier there. So I think the next few guys that we throw in there, I don't think we'll get any arguments with. To me, it's going to be where we end the A tier and do the B tier. That to me is where you're going to have a problem. So, Tkachuk's been going right behind Matthews in most of these drafts. So far, we're still fine. Eichel, same thing. He's been going in that 14 to 17 range, we'll say, for ADP. So again, no problems here. And that's the thing. And this is one of the things we talk about with fantasy hockey is there are so many centers. So yes, you shouldn't pass up on certain guys, but for the most part, if you can wait, I mean, we're not even deep into the second round yet. And there's already 6 centers that are on the board that are, either S tier or A tier. So
with where does that point come? Where are you like, okay, I'll wait? Is it after Austin Matthews? After where are you like, you know what? I'll go in a different direction if someone of a better tier is on that, in that ranking.
I think that answer is going to be determined where we would determine where the A tier ends, because at that point, to me, if you could still get an A tier center. If it's your second round pick, sure. Because that's the other thing too. If you didn't take a center in the first round, then yeah, you can come back around and take a set. But sometimes people go double center, and if that one of those centers doesn't have a wing eligibility that you can slide them to, that's where it's like, do I really want my first 2 picks to be centers? Especially if you're towards an end of a round or I should say center only, where okay, it's going to be 20-something picks before that gets back to me. So that's why I take one early for sure. And then you see how it falls to you. So we're okay here. We're not going to overanalyze things and be like, why Tkachuk belongs there and Eichel. It's common sense when we're doing this right now. It's where the borders, it's where we draw the divide. William Nylander, are we still putting him A tier?
I guess if we consider him a centerman, then
According to Yahoo, he is. He's a right man in real life, but
he is. But if you're going to give him center eligibility, then to me, he goes right behind Matthews in that sense. He can score goals. He can rack up points. His shot volume is decent. The same thing with Jack Eichel. I know we've agreed that Brady Tkachuk is an A tier. I don't. Brady Tkachuk is one of those overrated players you take way too early because he throws his weight around and he throws punches.
But in a banger league, he gets you high numbers. It's not like he's absolutely like 90. He gets you like 200 hits.
You're absolutely
that's
right.
Significant.
Yes. The problem is if he's a 12, if you're in a 12-team league, he's your first pick. That's who you're taking probably later. And then on the turn, you're probably going to get, right, you're going to try to maximize that value. Now, he had one down season last year. It was a struggle for him, complete struggle. And if you're looking for a bounce back candidate, he's probably it. But I have a hard time building my team around him with the inconsistencies that the Ottawa Senators showed. And if you believe that they'll be a better team, and that will benefit Brady, then fine. I get he throws like 300 and some odd hits. And I get that he racks up 100 plus penalty minutes every year. And that is fine. The problem is if his highest total was 83 points, right? That was in 2022, 2023. It's not terrible. It's a point per game pace. That's fine. It's fine. Is it first round total? Probably not. But the hits and the PIMs make up for it. That's the bonus. That's the add-on. So again, 55 points last year. We can just throw it out and say, hey, man, it didn't work. We don't know how healthy he was, all that jazz. But 83, 74, 55. He did not score 30 last year. He scored 29. I know it is what it is. The problem is if I'm building my team around him, my picks after that have to be very offensively focused because I've sacrificed to collect hits and penalty minutes when I can get that from a cheap defenseman later in a banger league. If you're in a head-to-head categories league or in a head-to-head points, I mean, Brady's not a first-round conversation at all.
Correct. And good on you to specify the types of leagues where that matters. And yes, we're going to assume that you're in a league with face-offs here, but when you're talking like the top 20 or so centers, the face-off doesn't really change the ranking all that much. Once you get past this group, sure, a guy that wins 700 draws a season might, if you're in a face-off league, absolutely may bump them up the rankings a little bit. But you're talking about the top 25 guys here. That's that's not changing things too much here. So we're okay with these guys. I'm going to throw Braden Point in here. Now, this to me is where it can get dicey and we could get a lot of hate mail here, which if you want, you could send it to totalhockeynow@gmail.com. Always love the response there. Crosby. Again, let me just put this on the bottom. We are tier ranking from a fantasy perspective, not actual hockey ability. I recognize this guy is one of the best hockey players to ever lace him up. He's one of the best at his position. If he stays in Pittsburgh and doesn't actually say, you know what, I want to go win one more time somewhere else, he will be as big an icon in that city as Terry Bradshaw, Ben Roethlisberger, Mario Lemieux, on and on, Roberto Clemente. From a fantasy perspective, with the Penguins being a team that is not expected to do well, and there's, Malkin's another year older. Yeah, I know there's Brian Rust there. Is Crosby still considered an A-tier center, or are we having him start the B category? That is the question.
He's probably going to start the B for me. Like I can't justify putting him in that category with those players, looking at the team that's around him. And like, listen, Father Time is undefeated no matter what. And even when Alex Ovechkin did what he did, the supporting cast around him was still very good. And Crosby cannot do it all on his own. He just can't. So it's really hard. He starts off the B category. It's perfectly fine in my mind. He's going to get goals, get assists. His shot volume will be decent as well. He's just a B category because he's limited by the guys around him. Right?
And
There's only so much he can do.
And we're not saying necessarily step back. He had 33 and 58 last year, but if you're expecting more than that this year, that's where I like what you got last year. That's the high watermark. It's not going to get better this year, not unless Pittsburgh makes some sort of trade where he gets, again, not an indication on his on the ice talents. This is from a fantasy perspective. And when you look at what the Penguins have to skate with, like we said, Malk, right now, Ricard Raquel and Brian Rust, a line he skated with for a while, that's fine. But again, 33 and 58 last year. There's not going to be an increase. I don't know why you would expect one.
No, you're 100% correct. I think he leads off the B category, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think the next guy who goes behind them though is Sam Reinhart.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Sam Reinhart just been going like towards the end of a second round, usually in a 12-teamer, a little bit earlier in a 10-teamer. He's a guy that, like, if he's there, like, I'm never disappointed to get him. He has the right wing eligibility too, which that certainly helps. I'm not going to really play a guy like that at center unless I just happen to have a ton of wings, and then fine, I'll slide him there. But he's a guy I'm absolutely playing at right wing. He'll show up in our tier rankings for when we do right wingers. Yeah, he's on the top line for Florida, power play stud, gets shots. No brainer to put him there. Jack Hughes also, even with the health concerns, very much belongs in the same group as Crosby, Reinhart, and Jack with those two guys from a fantasy perspective. Got to throw that out there. So we still got a lot of bodies here. So I think this is going to be a pretty deep B tier here. Let me know when you want me to stop, because I think Suzuki belongs in there. I know Chris is not going to argue with me. Mark Scheifele, the way he bounced back last year, he's going to be the top dog there. There's no reason for me to think he's going to take a step back this year. So far we're doing okay here with the B group there. So what do we got here? We got 13 guys in, 12 to go. So next up here is, you got the Tage Thompson, Robert Thomas, Sasha Barkov, and Macklin Celebrini group here. So again, tier ranking amongst the top 25, not of the entire position. So some people have to be in the C and the D tier here. Are we putting, let's start with, is there anybody here that you're like, yeah, they're definitely a B tier guy?
I would put Celebrini in that B tier. I know
right.
it is, it's his second year, but like if the upside is the upside is there, and we see the talent, we know it's there, and the Sharks are still going to be bad. Let's not get it twisted. They're still not a good team. So they're going to be trailing a lot, and they're going to need to play catch up. I would probably put him ahead of Scheifele. And I mean, because I just think the ceiling can keep going for this kid. It can keep going up. It can keep pushing it. I don't think it's out of pocket to think he can produce a point per game. The only thing that's going to slow him down is the rest of his teammates, right? Nick Suzuki obviously is fine. He had 89 points last year, okay? He has been on a steady trajectory up. There is no reason, barring injury, to not think he can better those numbers. I don't think he's a 100-point player, but he is a 90-point player in the NHL, and he's only adding more pieces. So the next person who tells me Nick Suzuki is not a top 10 centerman, I mean, you just have to write a 10-page essay.
MLA
MLA
for the purposes of these rankings, he would be top 12, I guess.
Okay, but that's because we've agreed that Brady is there and
Correct.
Nylander.
By Yahoo eligibility, yes.
By Yahoo eligibility, they are winger. That you would probably start. Well, Brady is again
at left wing.
I've said my piece. And Nylander, you would probably start him at wing. You would not slot him in as a centerman. You have the opportunity. It's good during the year because you can move him. But in reality, he's a winger, and we all know that. I guess the other player that I'm kind of like, I guess it would, for me, it would finish off the round, and it would be Tage Thompson. Now, obviously, I'm very high on Tage. And again, another player who's got dual position eligibility. He is a great candidate for a 40-40 season, right? 40 goals, 40 assists. I mean, people keep telling me the Buffalo Sabres at one point are going to be good. Probably not this year, but somebody's got to do damage there. Big frame, big shots, throws a little bit of his weight around. Like he is the straw that stirs the drink for that team. He is the one who's going to go out there and cause things to happen. So I like the roster flexibility. I like the goal scoring upside that he has. He can still pick up his assists because, you know, there are some guys who can finish for him. There's a lot of positives there. I just don't think he can give you much more than that. I think he finishes off because he tops up that category.
I'm not going to argue against that because Tage Thompson is a guy I'm absolutely. I've tried to get him in as many drafts as I can because he had 47 back in 2023. Then 29 goals, but he only played 71 games that in 23, 24. Back to 44 goals last year. So for him to be a 40-40 guy, he just needs to get 12 more assists. Totally in the realm of possibility. Yeah, Buffalo's going to be a bad team, but they should be a better team. So maybe a little bit more scoring there. And yeah, he's a right wing guy that, you're probably going to play him on the right side. But yeah, for me, he belongs there in the B tier. I guess for me next, and stop me at any point, or stop us at any point if you disagree. Robert Thomas is, to me, where it gets tough. And yes, like at the surface, I would be like, okay, let me put him in the C tier. But if you're in a categories league, Robert Thomas gets you a ton of assists, and he's a guy that can swing that category for you on any given week. I mean, last year he had what? 81. Last year he had 60 assists. The year before that, 60. So 47, 57. The guy gets a ton of assists. Maybe because the center tier is so deep, he would go as a C tier. The lead off the C tier. I mean, Barkov to me is a classic example of a tremendous player on the ice. Fantasy wise, maybe loses a little bit of that, we'll say pedigree, but again, not a knock on him. So are we okay starting the C tier with Thomas, or are we sneaking him in back in the B tier?
I would start the B tier. The C tier with Nico Hischier.
Okay. And he's been going late in drafts. And, maybe that'll change, once you get closer to the season. But yeah, I don't understand. Like, he's been going down around maybe like in that 7th, 8th. Like, he's a guy that's like just been sitting at the top of a board in the queue. And it's like, nobody's taking this guy. Maybe Ant could offer some insight. But so you want to end the B tier with him or start the C tier with him?
I would start the C with him.
Okay.
I think it helps that he had a career high in goals last season with the 35 goals. So I think that helps his case. Obviously health, he's got to stay healthy. Had 29 power play points, had 187 shots on goal, stays with 44 hits as he had the previous year. So I'm good with him being in that tier. If this was last season too with Barkov, probably would have been in the B tier for me. But I agree, you could put him in the C tier as well with Robert Thomas in there.
All right, so we'll go Hischier, Thomas, Barkov, off to a good start. Now, talked about bounce back candidates, Macklin, Celebrini in year 2, and I got no problem with that. And the Sharks, again, just like the Sabres, they should be better than last year. I understand not much better, but it should be a better on the ice product, maybe an increased reduction for Celebrini. It was not a good sophomore season for Connor Bedard, who also now has right wing eligibility in Yahoo, so that increases his value a ton to me. But we're talking B and C tier defensemen here. We've got Celebrini in the B tier. We're not going to, are we going to give Bedard a pass and kind of sneak him in there too? Or does he belong in the C tier based on the fact that Chicago still hasn't really given him a whole lot of help around him?
I would leave him in the C tier. I need to see a little bit more. There are too many good players ahead of him that are, I don't want to say sure bets, but the risk that there's not as much risk. Like, he could explode. 100% he could explode. But it's not there yet. It's not there yet. And again, there are certain things that we need to see from him. The shot volume's got to be higher because this is a kid who could fire the puck. The goals are not coming yet. And yes, the gang in Chicago is young and they're going to get there at some point and everybody's going to pick up pace at the same time, but he's not there just yet. So if I in that C tier, there are a lot of players with a ton of upside, and maybe Bedard has the most, but of all those players, Bedard could be the one who flatlines the most. And it could just be growing. It could just be growing pains because he plays in Chicago because the team's so bad.
And maybe he breaks out this year and you just got a value pick.
Yeah.
You just got a value pick late around in the rounds. I think in the draft that I watched that you guys did last week, I think he went, it was either the 5th round, 6th or 7th round. So, whoever's getting him, you got a lot of upside and you might come away with it or you might not. This might not be the year because of the way Chicago plays. So, just keep your eye on where he goes in the draft or, where you're seeing him fall. And maybe that's where you take him.
So I've been seeing him in drafts go in the 4th round. Basically, if Tage Thompson goes, Connor Bedard's going to go like within a couple of picks. So and that's a trend I've noticed is those two guys tend to go right near one another, usually definitely in the same round, usually within about 3 or so picks. All right. So we've got a good looking group here. Next up on the list, let's talk about Sebastian Aho, because I could still put him in the C tier amongst this group. You're going to have Nikolai Ehlers in the building this year, so that's going to help. He's going to be skating on the line with him and Svechnikov, so I got no problem putting him in the C tier and letting him firmly be entrenched there. Maybe even ahead of Barkov because he's got Ehlers as a running mate now, but no, all right, I'll put him after Barkov because I still like the top 6 that he's involved with Florida. So I'm going to plug him there. Chris looks like he's got something to say about Aho.
No, perfectly where he needs to be. I guess a lot of people are afraid that the way the Carolina Hurricanes play and how they're more defensively structured might limit his upside. 74 points last year. He had 89 the year before. Like it's going to be, he's probably a 70 to 85 point player, which is still a pretty big range, but in a C tier, that's pretty good. He's good value, but if you're looking for him to get closer to 90, I don't know if he's there. And that's just because there's so many other things he's got to do. He's got to play the best competition every night. And sometimes he's not playing with like elite top goal scoring talent around him. There are good players around him, but I don't think he's playing with the elite talent and I don't think Brendan Moore's system is going to let them go out there and really push the pace. This is a well-structured team, well-positioned. Aho goes out there, does a whole bunch of things that he needs to do. So again, probably like Barkov, another real good real life player. Like I would want him to center my top line and I'd match him up against the opposing team's best line and not have to, I wouldn't lose sleep over it. But
from a fantasy perspective,
there are just other guys. He also doesn't have any other position eligibility. So it's like, okay.
And, to me, like that factors in here too. Like, obviously it doesn't matter with a guy like McDavid or McKinnon or Matthews or Eichel or Point or Crosby. But then after that, like, it helps that a guy like Jack Eichel can play the left wing, Kachuk can play the left wing, Reiner at the right side, Thompson on the right side. So that also to me gets them in that tier a little bit too, because you do have that flexibility. So we're about 5 deep here in the C tier. We're almost getting ready for a mock draft here, but not quite yet. I want to look, is there anybody down here that, like, to me, like Rupe Hintz, I think among this group, we could safely put in the D tier. Any argument there? Again, better real life than fantasy. Still a very good, I'd say as a center 2 on your fantasy team, very good. But if he's your center 1, I don't know if I want that.
No, he's a perfect candidate for the D tier.
For the Rangers, is that JT Miller?
That is certainly so. Remaining on the board here is JT Miller, Dylan Larkin, Tim Stutzel, and John Tavares are the last 4 we have here among the top 25.
Last year, I took JT Miller in the first round. I think it was in between 10 or 12 in our draft, in our real draft. And he did not obviously have the season he had the year before that earned him that spot. But, obviously I think he was dealing with personal issues. So he took some time off. Then he got traded to the Rangers. So it's tough coming into this, knowing the type of player that he is. He's now on a Ranger team. Maybe you can express more of how you're feeling with the Rangers right now and how he'll fit in. But I feel like he's either got to be in the end of B or somewhere in C. I wouldn't have him in D right now because none of this production that he lacked was due to him being injured or anything. It was that time that he took away and then being traded.
Now he's still going because also another guy that has wing eligibility. He's been going, somewhere in that late second round is probably about an accurate projection for him. It's right now scheduled or slated, I should say, to center the Rangers second line with Will Cooley and Mika Zibanejad. And I think the answer to the Miller question is he's going to be playing. You know, Zibanejad looked good on the right side last year. If that's where his full-time role is going to be, and I like that, rather than trying to have Zibanejad be the third line center, Miller and Zibanejad can find that chemistry, and Cooley kind of just goes and does everything else out there. I think that could be, you know, just that, and the fact that JT Miller is coming into a season with a fresh perspective of the place he's played before, players he's known for a very long time. He doesn't have the bullshit in Vancouver that's hanging over his head this year with Elias Pettersson and, you know, who's the problem in the lock. All that stuff is behind him. So he's coming in with a clean slate, and I think that helps too. So while I'll agree that I don't think he belongs in the D tier, I don't know if I can make an argument for him to be among the people in the B tier. I'd have to put him somewhere in the C tier.
I can live with him being in the C tier. A couple of reasons. One, he throws his weight around. He is a player who can rack it. He's a cheap version of Ovechkin who plays it, right? Ovi can throw his weight around. Miller can do that. He was close to averaging a point per game, right? And he did average it when he got to the Rangers. We can agree that the Rangers are a much better team than the Vancouver Canucks. And he never has to see Elias Pettersson ever again, or at least not in his locker room. So there's some positive there. I would like to see him center the top line. I'd like to see him play with Panarin, Lafreniere, mainly because I want to draft Lafreniere in a ton of drafts, and that would only boost his value because Panarin is a great passer. JT Miller can do a lot of great things as well. But for me, JT Miller can be all over this map. Easily can end up by the end of the year in any of these categories because – like, we know what he can do. Is he 100+ point player? I don't know. I don't think he is. But, like, he's done it. And, like, the Rangers now, like, he's on that top power play unit. He's going to be, like, they're going to facilitate the puck around him as well. He's not afraid to go to the dirty areas of the ice. The Rangers don't have a 3C and a 4C. So it's Trocheck and Miller, and then the two other guys that are just going to play a little bit. So from a positional standpoint, they don't have to worry about it. They don't have to like fight over it. There's a ton of ice time for those two to play. Miller can also play those important minutes, but you're hoping Trocheck has to play them. You want Trocheck to play the tough matchups. I would leave him in the seat, but all I'm saying is he can be anywhere on this map.
I'm not breaking Trocheck and Panarin up right now. I mean, I get why you would want to see that because I think that would work too, but I think that's a move you make if Trocheck and Panarin somehow go cold at some point in the year and you got to do a little bit of a shakeup. Otherwise, I'm leaving that alone. But yeah, like you said, Miller, I like I said, just because he's coming into the Rangers environment, I think is just going to do wonders for him. And then for everything you said, yeah, I think he's a C tier guy. Now, we got 3 more players to rank, but we do got to get over to our mock draft here. We at least got to make sure we get in the room. So what we're going to do is, let's see, we got one that's starting in 3 minutes here. So I'm going to put the link in the screen in a second. This one's already getting a little full here. So I'm going to put it in the main chat, guys. Pay attention. Be ready to go. Mock draft sign up time. Make sure everybody gets in the room. I'm picking 4th there. Still 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 spots to go.
Says you're picking 3rd.
Oh, I'm picking 3rd, excuse me. I thought I was picking 4th. Ant's taking 4th, and Chris is got 8th. All right, perfect. So Ant's going to be, I'm sure Ant will snipe me a couple points. Chris kind of stays away from us. Now, we still got a few minutes before that gets going, so let's wrap up the tiers here as we move things along. So still remaining here is Dylan Larkin, John Tavares, and Tim Stützle. So I think we can safely put Stützle down there, the D tier. Again, shout out to Sherry, who we put Sanderson down in the D tier last year. We're not anti-Senators. Just it's how it's worked out. To Larkin, I would maybe put at the end of the C tier. Is that reasonable? I think that's okay. Or starting the D tier because Detroit, the production.
He can start the D tier. He's not a C tier. Not in my mind. He can start the D tier just because like Rupe Hintz is hurt. And you say you're not a Sens hater. I can't agree with that. I mean, the Senators are just not a great team. I don't know who needs to hear it twice, but I'll
shout out Sherry if you're watching.
And every other Sens fan who's delusional at this point of the year. I would probably, and then Tavares to finish it off. I think he's just there. He's just running out the clock now.
So you're putting him in the D tier as well.
Whatever you get from him, good, but I think he's probably a 60-point player at this point. I can see him losing his position as a 2C and ending up as a 3C as the season goes on.
Wow, that's quite the prediction here. That's Chris is no stranger into riling up Leafs Nation, and there it is. So we'll review that. We'll run through the tiers quick, and then we'll transition over to the 12-team head-to-head banger league mock draft here, mock draft 8 on Total Hockey Now, as that's coming up in about 3 minutes. Our S tier centers, and again, from a fantasy perspective, and only among the top 25, not among the entire position. McDavid, Draisaitl, McKinnon's your S tier. And your A tier is Austin Matthews, Jack Eichel, Brady Tkachuk, William Nylander, Braden Point. Then in your B tier, leads off with Sidney Crosby, which I cannot stress again from a fantasy perspective. Then Sam Reiner, Jack Hughes, Nick Suzuki, Macklin Celebrini, Mark Scheifele, Tage Thompson rounds out the B tier. Nico Hischier leads off your C tier with Robert Thomas, Connor Bedard, Alexander Barkov, Sebastian Aho, and JT Miller. And rounding out the D tier, Dylan Larkin, John Tavares, Rupe Hintz, and Tim Stützle. So there you go. There's our tier rankings for the top 25 at the centers. We will be doing, I believe, the left wings next week and then the right wings after that. I'll have to double check on that. But nonetheless, we're getting ready for mock draft number 8 here. And we and we haven't had you in a lot of them this year, so it's good to have you in this one.
Yes.
Very excited to have you be a part of it. And what are you looking to accomplish today? Is, Chris and I have got a few of these under the books. What's your approach coming in today?
I'm going 4th here. So, the top 3 you mentioned, the top 3 in the centers tier, those guys are probably going to be the first 3 to go. The decision is, whether to jump on Cale Makar or not, and then figure things out from there. I know it's a little harder being towards the middle and getting some of these good players to come your way, but we're gonna do our best here. I did very well in the mock drafts last year, and then when the real game came, I finished 9th. So you can only have so much fun and mess around with things during the mock draft and see where things go. Who was it last week that went 4th in the mock draft and caused chaos going?
The aforementioned JT Miller.
Yeah, JT Miller, Tom Wilson, number 2,
taking bangers to a whole new level. Yeah, taking bangers to a whole new level. Also, first person in the YouTube chat or comment section to say some of those players are a winger, you're immediately getting an angry face from me. Right?
Yes,
we get it. We get it.
We know on the ice they play center, but according to Yahoo, they have certain eligibilities.
They sometimes line up on the wing as well, or there's sometimes take center. They'll take a face off. I get it. First person, somebody's coming and be like, Willie Nylander's a winger, and I'll be like, I get it, bud. I get it. Sit down. It's
important to have dual eligibility, and if they have it, it's better for us. Maybe we'll have to put it in the description of the episode. This is from Yahoo Fantasy ADP.
Wait till you find those triple position eligibility players. They exist. They get you really going.
Now we got a minute away from this draft here. Well, we got a second here. Yes, Frank's checking in. The trio is back. My bro is not at the dentist this week. LOL, just kidding. He might have been. He's just not there today. Can't wait for the THN League to start again. I got to get on that. Listen, it's hockey's the priority, but I am a big fantasy football player. I got to get through this start of the season. Then all the fantasy hockey stuff's going to start getting scheduled. So there we go.
And shout out to my brother. He finished 2nd in the league.
And you'll have to refresh my memory. Who won the league?
The aforementioned Adam Bernard, the champion of our league. We get to see it every day in our text chat. We got a nice little picture of Adam to headline that. So we're good to go.
Yeah, we are certainly good to go here as the mock draft's going to get underway in 15 seconds. And Chris, I did remember to shut sounds off, so don't even get your hopes up there. So we're getting ready to rock here. I'm picking 3rd, Ant's picking 4th, Chris is picking 8th. This is a 12-team head-to-head league with hits and blocks and all that good stuff. So without further ado, the draft has begun. Connor McDavid, of course, goes first, and Leon Draisaitl goes second. Let's see here. I'm going to make my pick and then get to the right way to do this. Of course, I'm taking Nate McKinnon. Sorry to waste 11 seconds of your time.
Damn.
And Ant's got to now. He's thinking about Makar here, which is reasonable. You could still go Kucherov here, but it's one of those two guys. I don't think it's Kaprizov at 4 or anything like that, unless there's random premium. And he gets the guy, and listen, it's going to be a while before the pick gets back to him. Werenski's going to be gone, so your bona fide top 2 are off the board. Chris, I don't think you really had a chance at him at 8 anyway. Oh, Matthews goes 5th.
His average ADP, it keeps climbing for Cale Makar. So he started at about 6, 7. Like Yahoo has him at like 4, right? They have him at 5, but I've seen him creep to like 4.8, 4.7. So people are starting to understand.
So Chris now in unfamiliar waters with Kaprizov. No Makar available to him. After Makar at 4, Matthews at 5, a little high there, but I don't got a problem with it. Kaprizov 6, Kucherov falls to 7th. Alex getting a lot of value there. We'll see what Chris does at pick 8 here. Pastrnak on the board. I don't think he wants to go Hellebuck early. He's not going to take Kachuk because we already heard about that. So he's going to take Pastrnak. I don't think you really had a choice. A little too early for Hughes there.
I couldn't not take him at this point. He's there. This has been the worst start to the mock by now. All my favorites are going early, and it's just I'm glad to see my boys grow up, but
it's still a little
value somewhere else.
Now, in a real draft, I don't know. I may go Kucherov. I just wanted to change it up a little bit and see.
You just want to live life on the edge. I like that.
Yeah.
No, I think Chris made a point about Makar's ADPs rising and rising, and people are starting to catch on more to the fact that, hey, if you're in a league where you got to dress 4 defensemen, 2 of those really have to be really good players. You can't get away with having 4 scrubs at D. Even if you're going to try and use that to get your hits and your blocks, your 3rd and 4th defenseman, great. But you still need a couple of guys to carry the mail offensively. So, I guess Chris takes Cappy. Nope. I guess he got sniped. Go. So Kachuk goes after Pastrnak, Mikko Rantanen, Connor Hellebuck, 11th pick. Shannon on the turn here at pick 12 with Quinn Hughes and William Nylander on the board and Jack Eichel. Yeah, Quinn Hughes, and then you take Nylander or Eichel and don't look back. I don't see any reason to go crazy here. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, neither Makar or Quinn Hughes are coming back around in the next round. Neither of them.
Not in a 12-teamer. They're going.
And Werenski's probably going to go, I would guess, within the next 5 picks here. And I don't listen, if he's still there when Chris is picking, not to spoil his pick, I could see him taking Werenski. There goes Eichel. Hellebuck, Eichel, common 1-2 pairing there. That's Callum taking that. Josh, who took Rantanen with the 10th overall pick, with his 2nd round pick, grabs Kyle Connor. And then, Adrian takes Zach Werenski. So, Chris, I had Chris spot on based on his reaction, and now Chris is not going to be happy recapping this draft. Let's just get that out of the way.
I'm being forced to do something different this time. It is what it is. Listen, I'll take elite players when I can. So I'll take a goalie.
Not the build you were expecting, but maybe you're happy with it in the end. Because it's, again, you want to get guys you like, but sometimes you just got to take what's going to be best from a fantasy perspective. That's what matters.
Yeah.
The fact that Mackenzie Blackwood is in this top tier of goalies in these rankings here is driving me nuts.
I mean, I watched him in the beginning of the year in San Jose, and it was like, okay, this guy deserves to be on a better team, and kudos for him to getting there. And I think I don't want to pay the ADP price for where Blackwood's going, but I don't have a problem with it. Just personally, I'd rather go a different direction because I can see them not necessarily going with a 50-50 split, but we all know Blackwood's injury history. They're going to be cautious with him. So he's still going to get the bulk of the work, but he's not going to get a heavy workload. And now I'm back on the clock here after Ottinger, Jack Hughes, Sam Reinert, Mitch Marner, and Braden Point go. So Marner's a guy I was hoping to get back to me. Does not. There's a couple of ways I could go here. I'm not looking at Vasilevsky. I'm not looking at Kachuk because he's a guy that's been injured here and there, and I feel like they're going to rest him.
I feel like this is an easy choice for you.
I'm going to take Bouchard.
I didn't think you were going that way.
To see if somebody gets back to me is what I'm hoping. So I could have gone Dahlin. I could have gone Hedman, but no. Vasilevsky's gone. Give me the guy who was going to win the Vezina this year, Igor Shesterkin. I'm very glad to have that be my first 3: McKinnon, Bouchard, Shesterkin. Very happy with it. And the silence from everybody else would indicate that I'm probably doing pretty well too.
Yeah, you're doing pretty well. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking about Darlene there, but listen, Bouchard with the Edmonton power play, and he gets goals from the defense position. So then after me, Barkov goes. So Justin with his first 3 picks is McDavid, Barkov, and then goes Victor Hedman to open up round 3. Rasmus Dahlin was the 3rd round pick there behind Draisaitl and Vasilevsky for less G. I take Shesterkin, then Philip Gustafson. That's Anthony's guy. In terms of at least the goaltenders, he goes right after me. Then Macklin Celebrini to Beethoven, not Beethoven, Beethoven. Then Forsberg goes at 3-6. Forsberg is a guy, and no offense or disrespect to him, I'm just not drafting him at all. He's a guy I'm not really keen on taking Nashville Predators this year. Roman Josi, somebody I make that exception for at the right price of Forsberg if he falls far, or Stamkos, but Nashville's just not a team I'm going here.
Jack, though, is sitting on Kirill Kaprizov and Philip Forsberg, so he's cornering the shot market at least.
Yes.
Listen, if I can't get Kirill, I'll get the next best option.
And Chris has adopted the Wild as his central team this year. I've adopted the Blues. I know we've discussed that before, so you'll have to figure out which central team you wanted to do to adopt. I don't know if we've discussed that before. You don't have to have an answer today, but just pick a central team we're going to get behind this year.
I'll look into that for sure.
So after Boldy goes to Chris at pick 3-8, JT Miller 3-9, Jake Gensel 3-10, Callum on the clock at pick 3-11 here, pick 35. Overall, he has taken Hellebuck and Jack Eichel so far. So interesting to see if he grabs a defenseman with one of his next 2 picks here, as he's right on deck from the turn. He takes Jason Robertson there. Now Shannon on the clock, who has taken Quinn Hughes and William Nylander. Down a little. We're enjoying this 12-team draft here, and don't forget, give us a like, a follow, rate, subscribe, comment, whatever, however you feel, telling us you enjoy what we do or we suck. Either way, are happy to hear it. And there goes Tage Thompson at the end of round 3, and yeah, he's a guy that he's been creeping up from that 4th round status to now he's at the end of a 3rd round, and I don't blame people. I mean, he's a guy I've been trying to get, but there was no way I could take him as early as 3-3, and he's not getting back to me, and that's fine. Clayton Keller opens round 4, and then Marty Nature. So 3 guys with right wing eligibility going back to back to back.
Those are fantastic picks by Shannon, by the way. Willie Nylander there, who can play as a wing. Tage Thompson, who can play as a wing as well. It's just so annoying when people are good.
Shannon having a great draft there. Josh Morrissey goes to Josh right after the Martin Nature's pick. So we'll go along with Jake Gensel, Kyle Connor, Mikko Rantanen. He's going wing heavy early, which I don't mind at all. And then gets still a bona fide top defenseman there with Morrissey. Jesper Bratt goes after that at pick 4-4, pick 40 overall. Now Chris on the clock here. Let's see what he does. He doesn't have a defenseman yet. That's uncharted waters for him. Yeah, he did it once before. You had a draft where you had to wait.
Yeah, I don't like it, but let's go with Nick
Suzuki there at 4-5. No problem with that. Getting him in the middle portion of the 4th round. Alex on the clock now, who's got Kucherov, Hughes, Panarin, and then adds Adam Fox to that. So definitely don't mind that pick. We might see that sea of green coming soon here. As Jack's on the clock here, like you said, targeting shots on goal of Forsberg, Reiner, and Kaprizov. See what he does here. Very much appreciate you watching, whether it's live or if you're watching later on. So we're the only degenerates doing mock drafts for hockey at this point in the season. And listen, we know football season's here, so now you're going to start seeing more of that. We've been doing it all summer, so go back and you can track how the ADPs have gone. Do have some unfortunate ESPN drafts early on because Yahoo just doesn't become available till late August usually for their hockey mocks. So here we are. Tim Stutzel goes there, guy we talked about earlier. Right after Adam Fox. So Beethoven on the clock here. He's already got Macklin Celebrini, Mitch Marner, and Austin Matthews. So strong start there, but might be worth looking at the back end here a little bit. And takes Kachuk. I mean, listen, he's been falling that far. I guess you got to do it. And on the clock here. See what he does. He's got Gustafson with his last pick, and then Point and McCarr before that off to a good start. He's got a decision to make here. Clock's ticking. Oh, no, I'm on the clock. He took Scheifele. Oops, there we go. So he goes and gets one of the centers I like there. Yeah, why not? They're friends in real life. I may as well do it here too. Let's just take Crosby, because if he goes beyond if he goes in the 5th round, people are gonna have a conniption. I'll take a McKinnon Crosby as my top 2 centers, but now I kind of have to. I don't want to say ignore the position, but I really can't go back to center too much there after Crosby, Moritz Seider, Alex Ovechkin, John Tavares, and Thomas Harley, and there I am right back on the clock here. Let's see what I'm gonna do. I got to start looking at the looking at the wing here, and Adrian Kempe has been one of my guys, and he gets hits. He had 104 hits last year. Maybe the offense in LA is not going to be lighting the world on fire, but he's still top line, still top power play, still a guy that drives the boat there. 34 goals, 39 assists projected this year. Had 35 and 38 last year, so also gets a ton of shots on goal. There goes the other guy that I was considering at that spot, Lane Hudson. So Chris will have some words for Anthony, I assume.
Every single player that I've been looking at is just being picked. I am building somebody else's team.
And there goes Connor Bedard right after that to Beethoven. So yeah, Connor Bedard, we talked about, late 4th round, but more likely that 5th round usually goes here. Tage Thompson today going a full round apart. So that's an interesting development there. Cole Caulfield goes, so probably another guy that Chris had in his queue that was hoping if he was there, maybe he'd take. But alas, not getting any of his guys today. There goes Brandon Hagel. Back on the clock here.
I mean, he's fallen this far in a 12-team league. I feel like that's a gift. I can't keep watching him go around the board like that.
If I didn't have Shesterkin, I would have taken Blackwood at that pick instead of Kempe.
I mean, I have Ottinger, but I can't leave a top 5 goalie go around the board again. It just doesn't seem right.
And hey, you're building a team the way you normally don't build a team. So if you're going to try things outside the box, today's to do it for you, at least outside from what you're used to doing. Roman Josi, Sebastian Aho, Sebastian Theodore, and Robert Thomas round out round 5. So there's a C-tier center going at the end of round 5. That just goes to show you how deep the position is. C-tier among the top 25 and the round 5. We open up round 6 here for pick 61. Still some Bobrovsky, Sorokin, top goalies on the board. Darcy Kemper, but he takes Jordan Kyrou, no problem there. That's a guy that's going to get you a lot of goals. But still, you're gonna see some goalies go here soon. Dustin Wolf also on the board. Aiden Hill, also probably see a little bit of a sea of green with the defenseman there. Callum, he got his first defenseman with Shea Theodore. Let's see what he does. He takes Matvei Mishkov. All right, so. A guy that's gonna doesn't have a full season of Tortorella. Production took off a little bit after Tortorella left. No surprise there. We'll see how that goes. Jake Sanderson, who is the ranking that got Sherry upset with us last week, going at pick 63 there. So that's going to be for Josh. That is his second defenseman. He's wising up here that he knows he needs to get his top 2. Hey, Morrissey Sanderson, solid top 2. Certainly nothing to be upset about there. There goes Hyman, Jacob Chikrin. Chris gets his first defenseman. Again, not the build that Chris is used to doing, so he's adapting on the fly, but he's doing a good job.
Living a different life today.
I probably would have taken Uyghur over Chikrin, but 6 of one, half a dozen of another. There goes Valery Nichushkin. I think that's a little early for him. I think you can maybe wait a little bit longer. There goes Alex DeBrincat. Ant's on the clock now, and I need to get ready to make my pick as well. See what Ant does. He takes Wyatt Johnson, who is just outside the top 2. I think he was the 26th or 27th center rank by Yahoo ADP. There's 2 ways I can go here. I'm going to wait on that. Listen, there's still some quality goaltenders here. Yeah, Sergei Bobrovsky is probably the better goalie, but I think they're going to rest him more this year. So give me Ilya Sorokin. I'm going to take the New York combo of goaltenders. And there goes Bobrovsky 2 picks later, and Aiden Hill. Elias Pettersson goes to pick after me. Nico Hischier goes to pick after that at pick 7-2. And I am quickly back on the clock. And excuse me. I'm going to have to grab a defenseman here before we go, because I think there's going to be a run on them coming up. And as much as there's a guy I'd like to take, Noah Dobson instead as my defenseman too. listen, Hudson's going to be running the power play, but Dobson's going to be playing a lot of key minutes for them as well. So I will gladly take that at pick 75. As pick 74. No, Ant had 76. I had 75. He grabs Dustin Wolf. So there, you see, goalie's starting to go here. How do you feel about Dustin Wolf there, Ant? There's Sergachev. There's the guy I was considering besides Dobson.
Yeah, he's a guy that last season got off to a really good start. Wasn't sure if it was going to last or not, but I'm willing to give this an opportunity to see if Dustin Wolf can create magic again.
And here's the thing, Dustin Wolf in the 7th round, I'm okay with. There was some mocks where he was going like in the 5th round, and I'm like, even with the goalie run, no. But at that spot,
no.
And Darcy Kemper, who I was big on last year, there's got to be some regression this year. He's not going to put the numbers up he had last year. So as much as I was on board with him last year, I would not mind him as my goalie 2. He's not a guy I want as my goalie 1, as Jack has right there. So now after him, Seth Jarvis, who is another guy who just fell outside the top 25 for our center rankings. Dylan Larkin, Rupe Hintz, Dougie Hamilton. I passed on him over Dobson because of the injury problems. So, yeah, I couldn't do it. Callum on the clock, Mishkov, Theodore, Natchez, Robertson, Eichel, Hellebuck. Going backwards are his picks. See what he does here at pick 83.
I have been sniped so much in this draft. It's actually impressive.
There goes Miro Heiskanen. And we're almost at the halfway point here as we wrap up round 12 and enter in round 8. We'll be halfway after round 8. See, he took Jordan Kyrou shot in the last round, or she could be both. Robert Thomas, Clayton Keller, Tage Thompson, William Nylander, Quinn Hughes. I think you got to go defenseman here just to get the second one shored up. Charlie McAvoy, that's one of them. So, yeah, with one of those 2 picks, Shannon absolutely had to take a defenseman. They go ahead and accomplish that. I know Charlie McAvoy has fallen a little bit due to his surroundings more than anything. But as a defenseman, too, I'm okay with that. There goes Lucas Raymond, open round 8. Callum back on the clock here. Took a defenseman last time with Miro Heiskanen. 3 of the last 4 picks have been defensemen. Callum has 2 defensemen already. Don't think Callum will go for a 3rd here, but we'll see. We have to certainly slow down a little bit. We're not used to having full mock draft rooms, at least until, maybe next week or so. So it's nice to have that. There goes Logan Thompson. Would have taken Logan Thompson over Darcy Kemper. Maybe not over Dustin Wolf, but over Aiden Hill. Kind of in that same tier there. We'll do goalie tiers here in a few weeks. That should be fun. People get heated about where goalies belong.
People get heated about everything. I'm excited.
Nikolai Ehlers goes, and that's a good spot for him there. He's a guy that's about right about where you expect him to go. Early 8th round in a 12-teamer, pick 87. Earlier mock drafts, he was going a little bit later, maybe closer to pick 100, but he's going to move up too. Obviously expected to be a key source of offense for the Hurricanes this year. By the way, how do we feel about the new Hurricanes white jerseys with like the red and black? And I think they're pretty sharp. I know you saw we can talk about the Kraken jerseys here too, because we're certainly not going to talk about them from a fantasy perspective outside of like Brandon Montour.
Those Kraken jerseys are fantastic. W marketing. Terrible team, but at least the jerseys look good. If you're going to be bad, at least look good.
I mean, I would imagine they have to come out with the lights off to emphasize those glow-in-the-dark jerseys. I mean, that's going to look cool when you see the lit-up S's all come out on the I'm here for that. So we have a bunch of wings go together: Ehlers, Slavkovsky, Fiala, Meyer. But yeah, back to the jerseys. They nailed it. They really just a good job by the Kraken there. And I do like the Hurricane white jerseys too. I think it's something a little different.
I'd buy a Kraken jersey, but then I'd have to explain to people why I would be a Kraken fan, and I don't I can't explain it. Like it's one of those things you can't explain.
No disrespect.
No. Listen, if that team, no team has more 3rd-line centermen than the Seattle Kraken,
and are paying them like second.
And are paying them top center money. Yeah.
totalhockeynow@gmail.com if you got any comments.
The Chandler Stevensons of the world just collecting the paychecks.
All right, so Ant decides to take Drake Batherson there. Good, well-rounded candidate there. I am back on the clock here. A lot of directions I can go. I usually like to go wing heavy early on. I have not done that today. I have, gotten away from that a little bit, but I'm big on Matthew Nyes to get hits and to also get some coattail points off of Matthews. So don't love that he's my top left wing, but I don't mind it. Linus Olmark goes right after me. And then we're about to round up round 8 here and be halfway through the draft. Aiden Hill, the previous pick for Justin there. So let's see what he does on the way back. I have to get my swing pick ready. Takes Tom Wilson. Maybe a little early for Wilson, but see.
Listen, as long as Tom Wilson doesn't get suspended, then it's fine.
No, when he's as long, like you said, if he doesn't get suspended, he's a big contributor out there. Okay, I see what's going on here. We're getting to that run of defensemen where like I probably should take my third one. There's still a couple of guys on the board I really like here, and I'm not going to wait. I'm going to grab one of them. Tomas Hertl, top 6 on Vegas, going to be a key play, very key player for them. 2 position of eligibility, center, left wing. This is the point of the draft where, like, yes, you take best available, but you do have to consider positional holes there. And he could play center, but he's going to play at left wing for me. Konechny, the guy who went after me, was the guy I was considering. So really good pick there by Ant to let him fall to you.
And I picked him because you took Tomas Hertl. So we both had the same concept going into this round here.
All right, we're on the same pod here. Thinking of like, and listen, we haven't really sniped each other yet because to me, like, you were happy to get Konechny. It wasn't like, oh, I burst your bubble there.
No. It was one or the other.
And Chris has experienced that feeling probably 6 out of 8 rounds today. Quentin Byfield, probably a little early for him, but again, like, he's a guy that could take a jump this year. So there are guys you want. Don't hesitate because now we're in that middle of the draft where, like, if you wait, you're probably not going to get him. 3 defensemen go in a row after Byfield: Carlson, Hughes, and Brandon Montour. So after saying the Kraken are not worth much, about 3.5 minutes of real time later, here we are.
Listen, no part of me feels good about that, but it is what it is at this point.
Chris is going to have the most lackluster, just unenthused recap coming up in about 15 minutes here. Don't miss it. Adrian's back on the clock here with Jari Slafkovsky, Rupe Hintz, previous 2 picks, and there goes Vince Dunn. So who would have thought? Back-to-back Kraken. I mean, that's basically where the D-men go. And as much as I'm happy to get Hertl there, depending upon what's left defense-wise coming back to me, I may not love my third defenseman. So Pavel Dorofiev goes there at pick 911. Then 107, also pick 107. To close out round 9, we will see what Shannon does here. Took Lucas Raymond the previous round on the swing here.
I was hoping Jackson Lacombe would come back, but with that string of defensemen, it just felt like he was not going to make it around.
No, I agree. He's a guy I wouldn't have minded that if he got back to me either. Seth Jones, the fact that Seth Jones went right before me irks me a little bit because I probably would have taken him over Hertl. So, yeah, I'll consider myself sniped there. Jordan Binnington rounds up round 9 here. Binnington has been a guy where I like to pair him with Shesterkin as my top 2 goalies, so that way I can wait a little bit. But, Sorokin was still sitting there for me round 6. I couldn't, I wasn't going to let him go anymore. So Demko. So Shannon, who had not taken any goalies yet, decides to double up there with Binnington and Demko. While I like Demko, he has been going later drafts because of the injury stuff, but UC Saros, Montembeau are on the board there. I probably would have taken Montembeau over Demko, but there goes Saros. So yeah, if you don't have your goalie too, it's coming. And Chris, one consistent thing you can count on, gets Ivan Demidov.
He's pretty. Listen, yeah, I don't know how much I trust Yahoo's projections just now, but that looks like 70 points in a season. So I don't know if Demidov's going to flirt with 70, but if he puts up 60 in a rookie campaign, I'll take him in the 10th round of a 12-teamer. Also, I couldn't wait because somebody was going to take him.
Correct. Somebody would have. Might have been me. We'll see. Now, this is a guy I considered last round, but the fact that he's here now, I'm not going to look twice. Plus, I need another right winger. JJ Peterka, big fan of what he can do there in Utah this year. So after Demidov was Svechnikov, Ekblad, Parik, Pionk, I took Peterka, Dylan Gunther, Drew Doughty, Alexander Nikishin opens up round 11, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, and I'm back on the clock here. And with the way defensemen are going here, I got to grab defenseman 3. It's 2 guys I'm considering here. One of them is Devon Taves. And then one of them is, I could look at Colton. I'll take Colton Parayko. I haven't been getting a lot of him. The Blues are my adopted team. Fowler's another guy I consider there, but Parayko gets hits, and I could use a little bit of that on my roster at this point, so I'll supplement that there. Ant's on the clock here. See what he does. He took Neil Pionk with his last pick. Nice, well-rounded defenseman there. Oh, Horvat. So another guy that was within the 5 after the 25. There goes Samuel Montembeault, which is the goalie pick there. You can't really. The goalies are leaving the station here if you need a goalie too, because we're getting into goalie 3 territory. Yes, I am now in a keeper league over there. Yeah, I'm gonna. I got to rebuild the team there, but I'm looking forward to it. So thanks for the invite. No bling bling hockey. We got Sam Montembeault, Alex Tuck, Kirill Marchenko, and Chris back on the clock here, who has just not loved his team at all today. See what he does. Kadri, I figured that was the pick. You weren't going to let him wait any longer.
I've gotten some good value. It's just what I wanted has not worked out in the way that I thought it would.
After Kadri goes Carlson, Lucas Dostal, who I hope to get as my goalie 3 in a lot of drafts, but not the case if I'm not doing a handcuff. Obviously not going to Jonathan Quick with Igor Shesterkin. Not going to do the Islanders handcuff either there. So see who my goalie 3 is going to be. There's Morgan Riley going after Dostal. And round 11, wrap up here with Shannon's pick, who went back-to-back goalie previous picks, getting Jordan Binnington, Thatcher Demko, Jake Wallman, a trade deadline acquisition for the Oilers from San Jose, and then stays there. Not a bad pick at this point in the draft. If anything were to happen, Evan Bouchard, he's running the power play too, and he'd be on the power play 1 should anything happen to Booch. We got Steven Stamkos, and yes, at round 12, I'll take a Steven Stamkos. Plus, he's eligible at all 3 forward positions this year.
Yeah.
Carter Verhaeghe, Joel Eriksson-Ek, which is a guy that Chris was probably on his board, but no longer there. And then Jeremy Swayman. So again, goalies are going here. Took Kadri last round. He's got his 2 goalies locked up, and then he takes his guy Lafreniere. So it's another guy along with Demidov that he's been getting in a lot of drafts.
His ADP on Yahoo right now is 180. Like the disrespect to Lafreniere right now. I don't know how some people let that happen.
Yeah, I mean, hey, listen, he's got
just want a top power play spot. That's what I want for Christmas. A top power play spot for Alexi Lafreniere.
Dylan Holloway. Go ahead.
No, just that's all I want.
So I'm gonna listen. I could go 3rd goalie here. I'm gonna roll the dice and wait for it to come around. Brian Rust there. Ant's trying to get some points off of Crosby's wing. I almost took him last round. He's still there. I'll coattail ride the Cale Makar points. Give me Devon Taves. I want to shore up make sure I have I'm happy with my top 4 defensemen, and I'm happy with it. I don't love it, but Dobson, Parayko, Taves as your 2, 3, 4 is fine. Zibanejad and Trocheck go back to back. Trocheck is a guy that around this stage of the drafts is going to be very happy if you get him there, because he's going to deliver a lot better value than a 12th round pick being on the Rangers top line that with Panarin. And he wins faceoffs and he hits. So, that's a guy whose ADP could climb. There's Pierre-Luc Dubois, Darnell Nurse. Said I was going to go 3rd goalie here. Now, I could go Kochetkov because, let's face it, Freddie Anderson's going to get hurt and he'll end up with the lion's share of the work. I could be a jerk and take Jet Greaves and snipe Chris at some point here, but I won't.
I've been through so much.
I know, and I don't want to add to it today. You're a good dude. You don't deserve it. Give me Karel Vejmelka. He's going to get a ton of work there. So he's a workhorse goalie 3. Yeah, there were some forwards I could have gotten probably better value at, but I'd rather have the goalie 3 locked in. I know Shesterkin and Sorokin are pretty much going to play every night that they're playing, and Vejmelka's not going to get any starts over those 2 guys, but should injury happen, I don't mind him as my goalie 2.
Just bury me now.
There goes Gustav Forsling, certainly another guy that's not a bad option as defenseman 4. Logan Cooley, certainly another guy that Chris was considering on the board. Zeev Boyum, certainly a guy that Chris was considering because he's a wild. I've said that phrase a lot today. See what Chris follows up his Lafreniere pick here in round 13.
I'll tell you who I'm not following up with. Zeev Boyum. That's not happening. So we'll take the next best option here. First player on my team with triple position eligibility.
Ricard Raquel, center on the left wing of that top line in Pittsburgh. There goes Brock Nelson. right after him. So he's going to be the second line center there in Colorado. Frank Petrano, shots, gets you that as well. Slowing down here. Still got 3 rounds and change to go here. And this is the stage in the draft where I don't worry about ADP that much. Go get who you want to get at this point. This is where you do that. Fill out your roster the right way. See what Callum does here. Callum took Carter Verhaeghe and Morgan Riley with their previous 2 picks and Dylan Strome there. Strome's a guy I'm still okay getting the stage of the draft. Kiefer Sherwood, maybe a little bit of a reach there, but I get the appeal. Probably could have waited on for Sherwood for another couple of rounds. But hey, like I just said, there are people you've got a strong feeling about and you want to go get them, go get them. There's Thomas Chabot. Rounds out round 13. Here now in round 14. Pick 157 coming up here. Total Hockey Now. Thanks for watching on the YouTube channel. Currently got 17 people viewing. Appreciate everybody tuning in, whether you're watching live, watching later on a replay, or after this post. Mason McTavish goes there. We have not discussed landing spots for McTavish because that's kind of got cooled off a little bit, but curious to see how that plays out here. See how, last year Anaheim had the whole Cutter Gauthier thing, where they end up getting him. They got Zegras out in the offseason, so we'll see what happens.
I think McTavish would look great in a Habs uniform.
So Callum looking to grab some hits there. Grabs Sherwood and Cooley. There goes Kochetkov, Matt Duchene, and now Chris back on the clock here.
Second player on my team now with triple position eligibility.
Cole Perfetti. I was thinking it was going to be somebody else, and if he's there when he gets back to me, I'm taking him. But yeah, I like that Cole Perfetti pick. Watch for his ADP rise here because he's going to get popular around this time, and it'll start to boost up. He's not going to go at the end of drafts anymore.
If he gets those top power play minutes and he skates in the top 6, he's going to outperform his ADP by just existing.
There goes Matthew Barzal, Joseph Wall, Noah Hannafin. Though I love that pick here at this point because Hannafin is a bottom-tier defenseman. You're still getting some great value. And on the clock here, I no longer have to look at defenseman, and he sniped me. That was the guy who was taking triple position eligibility. Thank you. Friggin' guy.
Had to be done.
I like Cam Fowler here, but I don't like having 2 defensemen from the same team when I can avoid it. Phil Peronic is an all-around guy. He's not going to get you goals, but he gets you hits. He's going to get you blocks. He's going to get you everything else. So that's my 5th defenseman there, and I'm happy to take that and round that up, and I don't have to look at defenseman anymore as I take him at pick 14-10. All right, so coming back here after Decord, Boone Jenner, Evander Kane, Dylan Cousins, who's I think slept on a little bit. I know Chris doesn't love centers this year, but Cousins, pretty good little second line center there for fantasy purposes, a good third center. You know what? Because this guy gets hits, I'm passing other people, but I got to go with a wing here. Owen Tippett. I think he's going a little too late in drafts. Right now, I'm happy to get him with one of my last 2 picks, but I don't think that's going to last once we get closer to NHL season in October. So yeah, Flyers this year, I think could be an increased overall production across the board. I feel like there'll be a little more offensive there. Sean Dursey after me, Brock Besser, certainly a guy I could have considered there. But yeah, injury history scares me off a tiny bit, but I'm still willing to take him. So Ant gets his, what? Is that your 4th or 5th defenseman?
That is my 5th defenseman. Throwing him on the bench.
Listen, people like, oh, bench defenseman doesn't matter. Listen, injuries happen. You want a guy that can plug in because let's face it, if you got 5 different teams worth of defensemen, very rarely are you going to have an odd man out. So, people go Cam Fowler there again. If I hadn't taken Colton Parayko, he's a guy I would have grabbed too. I'm a big fan of Fowler there. He certainly had a resurgence once he got to St. Louis. After Jet Greaves goes for Alex, so we'll ignore the fact that was a guy that Chris was probably considering as a goalie there, as his goalie 3, because he's got 2. He's going to have to grab a third one. Maybe he's not. Maybe he's going to run 2 goalies. After Marchand, Mark Stone, Gabriel Landeskog, Tyler Toffoli rounds out round 15. Jared McCann, Jonathan Huberdeau, Arturi Lehkonen, Justin Falk. Your picks after that to take you through 184 here as we're about half a round to go in this draft. Chris Letang, yeah. So, and Freddie Anderson, Rasmus Anderson. Got to figure out what I'm doing with my last pick here. Love that Rasmus Anderson pick that late. I know who I want. I don't want to be sniped.
Which is what I've said like 12 times.
So Beethoven and Anthony, don't take the guy I want, and I'll be pretty happy with this draft. But Gauthier, good. That's not who I wanted. And don't do it.
Do it. A little bit of
I don't know if
chaos.
he's thinking about it, but don't do it.
Oh boy.
Yeah, at this stage in the draft, it's, you're hoping to hit on something late, but you realize it's nothing special here. Johnny Gibson, Johnny Guitar. That now I understand the oh boy comment. He didn't take the guy I wanted. Listen, I want to grab another right wing, and yes, Patrick Kane's on the board and all that good stuff, but everything Chris was saying earlier about, Celebrini's development, Will Smith's is right there with him. And he has center eligibility as well. Give me that center right wing. I'll take Will Smith with my last pick. There's Jamie Benn. And we'll see what Justin does with the last pick here. One more pick to go here.
He's just running out the clock now.
Now you're just being a jerk. Like, if you know who
he's studying all his options.
I mean, did he really have Will Smith, Jamie Benn, and John Gibson all in his queue? Brent Burns. All right, there it is. There's the final pick of the draft. So there we go. We got about 10 minutes to recap this thing and say farewell. We got a full house today, so let's go. We'll start with Chris here, because I as much as he's not looking forward to recapping his team, I'm looking forward to his recap. So Chris, let's go.
I mean, this team was a tough one, but nothing wrong with David Pastrnak, nothing wrong with Jake Onger, Boldy and Suzuki and Blackwood. I didn't want to have two goalies in the first 5 rounds, but when life gives you lemonade, you drink tequila. So that's where I got to that. And then this is where it started to fall apart a little bit. Jacob Chikrin is fine, but he's going to anchor my blue line, which is unfortunate. I wanted Seth Jarvis, didn't get him, so I got Dylan Larkin instead, which is okay. And then, Kevin Fiala is fine. I expect a little bit of an uptick here. Defensemen started to roll, and I needed one. So we take Brandon Montour because he is there. I wanted Seth Jones. That didn't happen. Coming back the other way, Ivan Demidov. I needed a right winger, so I was going to do that. I wanted Alexander Nikishkin. That didn't happen, so we went with Nazem Kadri instead. Again, nothing wrong with that. High volume player. The only problem is Calgary. I don't think they're going to be a team that's going to generate many more scoring chances. Alexi Lafreniere, nothing wrong with that. Then we came the other way. I wanted Zambulium, didn't get him, so I took Ricard Raquel because that was my next best option. Cole Perfetti, the triple position eligibility for both those players, which I think gives me the roster flexibility that I'm going to look for as the season goes on. And now I needed 2 defensemen to plug some holes, which is not how you want to do a draft. You don't want to have to be plugging holes on your back end here in round 15 and 16, but you didn't want to take Cam Fowler. I'm more than willing to take Cam Fowler. I hope he wins the top quarterback job in St. Louis because that's where most of his value is going to come. And then I took Chris Letang because, he's breathing. And the defense group at this point was just like, it was not good. I was way down the rabbit hole. Thank God you couldn't see how far I was scrolling down, but it's not don't look at the defensemen on this team.
This one is a borderline historic because you will not see a Christopher Merez draft with that. Will be polite and say mid-group of defensemen ever again.
I got sniped. I counted 14 different times. 14 different times I had a player in my queue that disappeared.
All right, so Chris, not really ecstatic about his team. And listen, if David Pasternak's sitting there at 8, that's a no-brainer. Like he's. And you handled the draft as best as you could, but the defenseman got away from you. That's the problem. Maybe you grab a Yossi or a Theodore instead of Blackwood, but even then, like, what are you really doing? Could have made Shirley happy and taken Sanderson, but last you chose not to. I'm going to run through my team here, and then we'll give Anthony the floor. No brainer, McKinnon at 3. There's not if I'm picking 2, I'm almost considering taking him over Draisaitl. I know the position eligibility, but McKinnon is just a stud. Bouchard, I talked about earlier here. My top three: McKinnon, Bouchard, Shesterkin. I've kind of built, middle, back, crease. Now I can kind of put my team around it. Crosby sitting there at the end of the fourth round. Maybe if Adam Fox had been there, I would have taken him instead, but certainly happy to have Sidney Crosby as my center 2. Little top heavy at center, but that's fine. I told you my thoughts on Kempe earlier. Big fan of him and trying to get him as much as I can at right wing when it's appropriate. Here again, run on defenseman. I like to have Noah Dobson is certainly a strong number 2 behind Evan Bouchard. I usually like to grab a Harley, a Hudson, or a Fox. It just wasn't the case. Certainly happy to have Dobson as my consolation prizes as my 2. Hadn't had a left wing at that point. Hadn't really, outside of Dobson and Kempe, started to address hits. Let me get into it there with Nyes. I said I like to get the coattail riding points from Austin Matthews. Hurdle sitting there in the 9th round. I can't let him go, as evidenced by the fact that Anthony was going to take him. JJ Peterka, 10th round. I think he's going to have a breakout season with Utah this year. And then, at this point, defensemen are starting to go. You got to fill out the roster. Colton Parayko and Devon Taves as my 3 and 4 are fine. As I get them at 11 and 12. Karel Vejmelka as a goalie 3 is great. Again, it's stressed the importance of Filip Hronek there, of having a good defenseman 5. Hronek certainly fits the bill there. I'll be even comfortable with him as my defenseman 4. Then rounding out the draft, Owen Tippett. He's going to get you hits. Going to get you power play time. He's going to be a guy that Philly counts on the score. Probably in that right wing, probably going to be behind Mishkov on the second line, but still get quality minutes. And then listen, I like to have Sharks on my team when I can, along with Rangers, and not go out of my way to do it. Will Smith in the last round. Very happy with that. And you're up.
Yeah, I went Cale Makar number 1 here. I don't know if I would do that in a real draft with Matthews, Kaprizov, and Kucherov there. Like maybe if I'm picking 7th or something, maybe I'll go Makar. But I thought, let's change it up a little bit. So I went Makar 4, and then Braden Point came to me at number 2. I like that pick. Gustafsson, you already know I'm all in on Gustafsson. Scheifele, that one was okay for me. I wasn't big on it, but I took him anyway. Lane Hudson, nice with the top 2 pairing for defense right there to go along with Makar. Wyatt Johnston, I think he was the first winger that I took, but he has dual eligibility, so I like that. And then, I'm glad that I took Dustin Wolf, because if I didn't, I don't think I would have gotten any goalie of substance after that, with Markstrom going right before me. I would have waited to take him, but I would have been sniped there. So taking Dustin Wolf, I'm happy with that pick. Drake Batherson, Travis Konechny as well. Would have got sniped with the Tomas Hurdle anyway, but it ended up working out for me. Neil Pionk there, Bo Horvat, Brian Rust was like you mentioned, Adam. I think you had mentioned it earlier, to get a little bit of points off of Sidney Crosby would be nice there. Gustav Forsling as well as Sean Dursey to round out the defense. Pavel Buchnevich was, I think, in the same line as Chris taking Cole Perfetti. I think he has triple eligibility.
He does.
So definitely was in on him. I think I sniped him from you. I assumed,
You
right? I think that
did.
Okay. So he had that going on. And then the last pick being John Gibson. I was really hoping that Freddie Anderson fell to me there, and I would have been very ecstatic. But John Gibson's probably going to get most of the goaltending out there in Detroit. So I guess I'll take that, because the other options were not good. So I'm banking on the top 2 to do their work.
Now, you sniped me with Buchnevich, but I'm not upset with how it worked out, because Owen Tippett as the consolation there, because I probably take Buchnevich. There's a good chance Hronek makes it back around to me. So, I would have gotten him there in the 15th round instead. Yeah.
I feel like we were in sync on a lot of these players, because if Buchnevich was gone, Tippett was also another option for me there. So we kind of were in sync going 3 and 4.
We only managed to snipe each other a couple of times, so not too bad there. There we go. That is our 8th mock draft of the summer. Next week, we're going to be back doing another one. We might do a 14-teamer next week. Listen, I know most people play 12s. We caught a little bit of somebody's like, nobody plays 10-teamers online in a comment, and then somebody immediately was like, well, I play in a 10-teamer. So we know 12 is the standard, but there are 10s and 14s, and we like to throw some drafts out for those audiences as well. Check it in the chat here. It always amazes me how ranks change so much, all depending on how your points are set up. Yeah, settings matter. League, if you're in a league where faceoffs don't matter, once you get to that like second and third tiers of centers, that makes a big difference. If you're not in a hits league, that changes the defenseman rankings. I don't want to say drastically, but significantly. So again, make sure you know your settings, because like the mocks we're doing here on Yahoo are standard stock, however many team head-to-head categories with hits and that stuff. But your settings may be different. There may be premium leagues. There are leagues where goalie wins get a huge premium. So maybe, a goalie like a Darcy Kemper, because the Kings are going to get a lot of wins, may have a little more value than otherwise. But yeah, I mean, it's all about knowing your settings there.
Just make sure you follow Chris's one golden rule: no plus minus. That's the big one. No plus minus in there.
If your league has a plus minus, man, fire the commissioner, get somebody new, stop sending faxes, and you can throw away the DVD player. We are in 2025. It doesn't matter.
I don't mind it, but if I'm setting up a league, I'm making the effort to take it out.
Yeah, you got it. I mean, look, we did 10, 12. Someone wants us to do a 14. You ain't cool until you did like we did the first year. It was 4 teams. Come on.
We'll do one of those 14 best ballers too. We'll sneak one of those in, because those don't take very long. It was us 3 and your brother last year. We might have to get that same group.
It's not as easy as people think it is.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, everybody walks away like, oh, I got a stacked team, but it's best ball, so you got to handle it a little bit differently. But we'll talk about that when we get to it. Now, a couple other podcasts that are going on here. We'll start with our friend here, Ant Rivera 86, with the At Subway to Shea podcast. We're not worried about the Mets missing the wild card, right? We feel confident that they're a playoff team, at least.
I think they're a playoff team. Not trying to be a homer, but I do. I think they've done enough to make the playoffs. Now, past that, the pitching has not been great outside of, Edwin Diaz in the bullpen. The starters are not giving you length. Now the offense is finally hitting, and they're playing just like you think one of those teams would play. They win a couple, they lose. They beat Detroit, which is the best team in baseball. They beat Philadelphia, which is another top team. Then they lose to the Marlins and the Braves and all the stinky teams. So it's just like, just get to the playoffs, because that's where you play all the best teams. Maybe they'll go on a run there. But it's been a long season. I'm kind of happy that it's coming towards an end. Just let's get in the playoffs and hope for the best there.
We'll see how the next video. Listen, a month is a long time in the baseball season, especially in September. Yeah, and it's been busy cranking things out over at Subway to Shea, and yeah, much deserved break coming up, because then he's got fantasy. It's like peak fantasy hockey draft season. So like Ant doesn't breathe till like early November.
Don't we remember too? Game 3, the decisive Game 3 in the wild card. We were drafting, and I was watching it at the same time.
This is true.
Maybe that's why I finished 9th.
No, wait a minute. We left, and Ant was down bad because they were losing, and then they ended up coming back, and Ant's demeanor just completely changed. Basically, the draft slowed the Mets down, is what I understood.
That was the correlation there. And then, but when we were done, Pete Alonso went and hit the go-ahead home run. Slapshot podcast, that's coming back soon, isn't it?
Next week. If you hit the sub button and ring the bell, you won't miss it. We're going to be talking a lot of some of the golden rules of drafting. I will share them with you. It's a checklist. You can just bring your pad and paper. We'll do some of that. Different types of rankings as well. If you need rankings, at one point they will be up at thefantasyalarm.com. You can get yourself one of those draft kits, which I will be putting together. As always, it is 100% correct. So like, it doesn't, you know what I mean? Like, it's just right. It's a good way. It's a good investment. Don't tell your wife or girlfriend. It's fine. It's really affordable too, unless you're Canadian. But yeah, hit the sub button, ring the bell, Slapshot Podcast on X, hit the link tree, and then you get the podcast wherever you enjoy listening to.
And the Fantasy Alarm NHL Draft Guide has to be correct. Otherwise, Howard Bender beats him. So, we have to be aware of that.
I'm excited to tell Howard that like the Rangers are no good or something. That's it. Him, Tom Vecchio, all the boys, just let them know everyone's right. And Pemba with the Bruins. Just if they're going down the drain, those teams, I'm gonna let them know. I don't even care. They could be their third favorite sport. I don't care. I'm telling you.
There you go. A couple of more comments from the chat here from No Bling Bling Hockey. I have plus minus, and he's the commissioner of that league. Listen, I don't hate plus minus as much as some people.
I do.
But to me, it's fine for fantasy, but as an evaluating tool of a defenseman or a player, and we've talked about this before on Total Hockey Now, at the extreme ends, it means something. If you're plus 80, that's something to look at. If you're minus 60, that's indicating something. But usually it's that you have to look beyond just that. But for a fantasy category, I don't mind it. Other people take a personal affront to it. And Frank says, great draft, guys. I feel bad for Chris. I knew he was getting sniped on at least 10 guys. And yeah, he did. He certainly did.
Sounds about right. I'm going to go drink some wine.
And then, of course, Rip and Riff and myself and at Mr. Jared Moore will be at you on Mondays this year after every NFL heavy Sunday slate. Ripping packs of cards, talking football, hockey, baseball, whatever's on our plates there. So that does it for this edition of Total Hockey Now. We really appreciate you sticking with us here. Doing the center tier rankings with us, doing the draft with us. Oh, good stuff. That man all the way down over there for my line mate, that Ant Rivera 86 and that Fuzzy First 91. I am at Bucky Coach Adam Bernard. Back with you an all new episode of Total Hockey Now next Thursday. Another box draft. Cheers to the rest of the right wing. We'll have to find out. But one of the two wings we're doing next week. On the next Total Hockey Now.